Here in East Africa, there is a very remarkable wild elephant. We know her better than any other. Echo and her family are the centre of Cynthia Moss's unique 30-year study. Over the years, Cynthia has witnessed some astonishing behaviour. Echo is the leader of her group and is now in her late 50s. Not many elephants live beyond 60. Trouble is brewing. There are more elephants in Amboseli than for 30 years, and many more people. Can the demands of the Maasai and the elephants be reconciled? Is this the last chapter in the story of Echo of the elephants?
My name is Cynthia Moss, and I'm on my way to Amboseli National Park, my home for 32 years. It's here where I've carried out my life's work with elephants. But today I'm returning in search of one particular elephant, the female I call Echo. Echo's not in this aggregation of several families of elephants. There are 53 family groups in Amboseli, so finding one is not that easy. Over the years, I've watched the elephant population grow from less than 500 to over 1,200 today. My team and I know every elephant individually, from the tiniest babies to the biggest bulls. I'm curious to know how all the elephants are doing, but on this trip I have to find Echo so that I can continue with the story of her life.
Back at her camp, Cynthia waits for the arrival of two of her team. Soila and Nora are part of a group of 14 people who watch over the elephants at Amboseli. Most of the team are from the local Maasai community. There's a lot of catching up to do. Echo's family of 26 is doing fine, but there are tensions with the Maasai, who are competing with the elephants for food and water both inside and outside the national park. Soila is worried. Cynthia's team constantly liaise with the Maasai in an effort to keep the peace. Cynthia is eager to get out and see Echo. Soila and Nora have told her there is a surprise in store.
Finding Echo and her family in amongst the 1,200 elephants of Amboseli is much harder than it used to be. Echo wanders further afield than in the past, but it gives me a chance to see what's happening both in the park and outside, where elephants and other wildlife share the same range with the Maasai. It's the beginning of the wet season. A little rain has already fallen, and the elephants have gathered into large aggregations, moving together to find the best grazing. I should be able to find Echo here. And there she is with her family, separated from the big herd. As the matriarch, Echo determines where her group will go. But she's not always predictable and has a mind of her own. Echo's long, elegantly curved tusks make her distinctive. Also her characteristic swaying stride. I think she's gorgeous. Now Echo is reaching the end of her life. She could live into her early 60s, but not much beyond that. The thought of losing her saddens me. When I first got to know Echo, Her family consisted of just 7 members, and she was a junior player among the 52 other groups in Amboseli. Today, Echo is a senior matriarch with an impressive family of 26. I think I've spotted what it was Soila and Nora were hinting at. There's a new baby in the family. It's a male, and he's only 1 day old. I see now that he's a new grandson for Echo. His mother is Elliot, one of Echo's mature daughters. I'm so happy to see Elliot with a new baby. She lost her first 2 calves when they were less than a day old. I hope she can raise this one successfully. I'm going to call him Emilio. Elliot and Emilio lag behind while the others press on. I'm delighted to see how attentive Elliot is with this baby. Echo and the others move toward the swamp. Even with the new calf, they continue to go about their daily routines. It's important that Elliot catches up with the family. Newborn calves can easily be taken by a pack of hyenas when a mother is on her own. Here at the edge of the swamp, Elliot needs to keep an eye on our new baby, as there are many pitfalls. The response is instantaneous as both Elliot and her younger sister Ebony come to the rescue. This cooperative care of the young, and even of each other, is such a core part of elephant life. It's one of the things that makes elephants so appealing to us. An elephant calf is amazingly vulnerable. To raise one is no small feat. A mother elephant usually suckles her calf for 4 years, and even after that, the youngsters need the protection of living in a family.
Over the years, Cynthia has learnt just how caring elephant mothers can be, especially Echo. Back in 1990, when the Amboseli elephants were first filmed, Cynthia had to choose one family. She chose Echo's because she was distinctive looking and because she spent much of her time near Cynthia's camp. In 1995, Cynthia made sure she was on hand for the birth of one of Echo's calves. And like 99% of all elephant births, this one occurred at night.
The family were beside themselves with excitement, perhaps because it was the matriarch who gave birth. The new calf, Ebony, was up on her feet in 14 minutes. When Ebony was only 10 days old, I witnessed some of the most fascinating behavior I've ever seen. She was kidnapped by a bigger, more dominant family. Echo was aggressively chased away, but then something extraordinary happened. She went off and got the other adults in her family, and they formed a phalanx, broke through, and rescued Ebony. I've never seen elephants displaying such a perfect example of forethought and cooperative behavior. Ebony turned out to be full of character. She was fearless and loved to play. Today, Ebony is 10 years old and as playful as ever. In fact, Echo's family is one of the most vocal and high-spirited of the Amboseli families. Even the adults love to play. I'm sure these interactions are very important in keeping the family closely bonded.
Amboseli sits at the foot of Mount Kilimanjaro in Kenya, right on the border with Tanzania. It's not a huge park, and all the land that surrounds it is Maasai owned. The Maasai are remarkably tolerant of wildlife and still allow it to roam over their lands. But conflicts can occur, and tragically people, livestock and elephants are sometimes killed. Cynthia knows that if Echo and her family and the rest of the Amboseli elephants are to survive, an overall plan must be devised that will enable elephants and people to live together peacefully. The clouds build as Amboseli awaits the long rains. If they fail, then everything is in jeopardy. The people's livelihoods, the park, and the wildlife. There have been devastating droughts in the past. It's what Cynthia dreads more than anything else. This year, the rains have truly come, bringing a new flush of grass. There will be enough grazing for everyone.
I'm not sure how much Echo's new grandson, Emilio, appreciates the rains, since he must be feeling cold. But the others are having a great time. Elliot is taking good care of Emilio, and I'm optimistic he will survive. Calves have so much to learn during their long childhood of 12 or more years, and he's just beginning.
After the bath, Echo leads her family over the rain-soaked plains. As always, Emilio has to go wherever the family goes, and this is going to be a test of his physical coordination. He may not be graceful, but he's flexible and resilient. It looks like Elliot is going to keep this calf. At the close of the day, Echo takes her family to the outskirts of the park, where they will feed and sleep. However, it's when they're outside the park that they may come into conflict with people.
It's always a relief to see the elephant safely coming back into the park in the morning. I'm glad to see that Echo is here as well. Following the usual procession of females and their offspring are the adult males, hoping to find a female ready to mate. The big Amboseli bulls are some of the finest in Africa. Unlike females, males leave their families when they reach sexual maturity, anytime from about 10 to 15 years old. There have been a few mama's boys who have stayed until 18. This little guy seems to be taking exception to my presence. Young males have a long wait before they can compete for females, really until they are about 30 years old. In the meantime, they have a lot to learn in terms of fighting skills and who's who in their hierarchy. It is at this time that I'm on the lookout for one of Echo's sons, Eli, born in 1990. He left his family when he was 10 years old, and I haven't seen him for almost 4 years. Eli was found a few hours after his birth, but tragically he was crippled. His front legs at the first joint were bent back, and he was unable to straighten them. Echo gently tried to lift him, but he couldn't stand. Echo never gave up on him. She and one of her daughters, Enid, refused to leave him and protected and encouraged him for the next 3 days. Miraculously, through his own determination, he began to stretch his legs, and on the 3rd day he stood. The whole sequence of behavior was one of the most extraordinary that I have ever witnessed, and from that point on I've had a soft spot for Eli. Back with the whole family, Eli had to keep up just like any other calf. His legs looked a bit wobbly, but he was game. As Eli grew up, he was as happy-go-lucky and playful as the rest of Echo's family, and was always up for a good sparring match. By the time he was 10 in 2000, he looked positively bored in the company of the females and calves. Soon after, he left for good. I'm sure he's out there somewhere, and I would love to find him.
70 kilometers away to the east of Amboseli, in the Julu Hills, there is an area where Cynthia knows the bulls congregate. She has a Maasai friend there who's keeping track of the bull elephants in the area. Jackson is a very reliable elephant spotter. It's time that Cynthia caught up with him and the elephants that live here. In the Maasai areas surrounding Amboseli, there are several community-based wildlife sanctuaries where elephants, especially bulls, find good food and peace and quiet. It's a vast area, and it's not as easy to find elephants as in Amboseli. It's also much bushier, and the elephants can easily hide. More importantly for the big bulls, this bush is a great source of nutritious food, vital for such a large animal.
Jackson has been trained by my research team to take identification photos of the elephants who come to the Chulus. Each one has its own card. We use the patterns in their ears to recognize them. There are some impressive bulls here, but none of them are from Amboseli, and disappointingly, Eli isn't amongst them. Still, it's good to see some big bulls over here.
That's a good one.
This is I just found Eli's card.
Yeah.
Ivory poaching in the 1970s and 80s was devastating for elephants, and particularly for the males, who have much heavier tusks than females. Yes, perfect. 35. As I fly back to Amboseli, I think of the males I've known over the last 32 years. It hurts to think of how many of them are gone, almost all of them killed at the hand of man for one reason or another. I still miss some of those individuals. In Africa, because of poaching for ivory, there are very few bulls over the age of 35. In Amboseli, as a result of our vigilance, we now have 56 bulls over 35, including 4 over 50. African elephant bulls are awesome. One of my all-time favorite bulls was Dionysus. 14 years ago, we filmed him in his prime with Echo. Over the years, we watched and marveled at his ability to attract females and overcome his rivals. Gradually, we saw the wear and tear that a big bull elephant experiences. He lost part of one tusk in a fight, but even when he was 55 years old, he just managed to beat his rival, Masaku, in a fearsome battle. By 2003, at over 60 years old, Dionysus was well past his years of glory. This was the last time I saw him alive. What a magnificent animal he was, and always so trusting and patient with us researchers. A few weeks later, he died of old age, but I suspect it was aggravated by a spear wound.
There are many aspects to the way the Maasai interact with elephants. Traditionally, the young warriors have to kill a big, dangerous wild animal to prove their bravery. Of course, the Maasai will also kill elephants when one attacks them or their livestock. But overall, their attitude towards wildlife remains positive. In fact, there are fewer spearings now than there were in the 70s and 80s. The Maasai and elephants have managed to live together for hundreds of years, and Cynthia's hopeful that they will find a way to do so in the future. But she has just heard on the radio that Soila is on her way to camp with a disturbing message. Echo's oldest daughter, Erin, has been speared.
Protect your baby.
Cynthia is anxious to find her, but it's too late to go out now. She'll have to wait until morning.
There are many families in this woodland this morning, so it's not easy to find a single group. I'm fairly sure Echo's family is here. I just have to be patient and keep looking. There's Echo and her family, and there's Elliot and little Emilio. At least they're okay. It's hard to be sure, but it seems to be just as Soila said. Everyone is here except Aaron. But there's Aaron's youngest calf. I call him Email, another grandson of Echo. It's a bad sign that he's not with his mother. To leave her calf alone, Aaron must be either dead or very badly injured. Now that they are out in the open, I can see the whole family, and Aaron is definitely not here. The family must have run in panic when Aaron was speared, and Email ran with them. It probably saved his life.
Less than a mile away, Cynthia finds Erin alone. She's severely wounded, high on her shoulder.
Erin, Echo's adult daughter, has been speared by Maasai quite badly up in the shoulder. Poor girl, she looks terrible. She's already lost a huge amount of weight, and she has massive septicemia, massive blood poisoning. We don't know whether she's going to make it or not. She's clearly in a huge amount of pain. She can barely walk, and for much of the time she's been on her own. But her family, Echo and the others, are close by. She's calling. I can hear her calling to them. Her little calf has now gone off because he's no longer able to suckle. We think it's too painful for Aaron. Her whole side and her breast is swollen from the blood poisoning that's occurring. It's extremely painful for me and my colleagues to see something like this happen. It's very sad. The next day, Erin is still on her own, but Echo and the others are close by, and they're coming this way. Email runs to greet his mother. He obviously missed her and is very hungry. He is less than 2 and needs his mother's milk to get enough nutrition. At his age, it's unlikely that vegetation alone can sustain him. He's absolutely desperate to get to his mother, but she's in so much pain that it's agony to let him suckle. Finally, Erin gives in, but I don't think she has much milk left. At least Email is lucky in having older sisters to watch over him. His 8-year-old sister, Sherry, is particularly attentive. She doesn't have milk, but she will try to protect him.
As soon as Erin is discovered with her serious injuries, the research team goes into action and calls the Kenya Wildlife Service, which run the national parks. The vet immobilizes Erin by shooting her with a dart gun. The powerful drug puts her to sleep within 15 minutes. The vet inspects and cleans out the 2 deep spear wounds. Now they will just have to wait and see if the treatment will help.
I have asked Soila and our Maasai liaison officer to find out what happened to Erin by meeting with some of the Maasai from this area. They cannot tell us who speared Erin, but the most likely thing that happened was that Echo and her family were using a waterhole just outside the park, and someone took exception to the elephants being there. She must have been speared from above when she was down in the waterhole drinking. Erin was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Echo and the rest of the family are staying as close as they can to Erin, but they all need to drink regularly. I don't think Erin has managed to get to water in the last 2 days. She has to drink in order to survive. Even though Erin was speared high up on her shoulder, the infection has spread down her leg, making it very painful to walk. The others have made it to the water's edge, and little Email manages a moment's respite from the traumas he must be experiencing. Well, watching Erin walk just then is giving me a little ray of hope. And she's now taking about 7 steps in one go. Yesterday she was maybe taking 1. And earlier this morning, it was like 2 to 4. Now coming down the hill, she just took about 7 and then had to rest. So, you know, I have to have a little ray of hope for her. Email has joined his mother again, and I'm relieved to see that Aaron has made it to the edge of the water. Email cries out in frustration because Aaron is still preventing him from suckling. Email is fighting his own battle for survival. He's feeling the loss of milk acutely, and his only hope is to eat as much nutritious vegetation as possible. For protection from lions and hyenas, he has to rely on his family. Echo and the others arrive. Echo greets her daughter with typical calls and postures. It's very touching to see this loyalty and concern on Echo's part. Even knowing that Aaron is very ill, she won't abandon her. Like Echo, I also don't want to give up on her yet. It's time to call in the vet again to give her one more chance to recover.
The vet cleans the wounds again and gives her more antibiotics. There's not much else he can do. Her family waits nearby.
We're worried that she might have trouble getting up. She's very weak. But she manages to struggle to her feet. Once she's up again, she's greeted by Echo and the rest of the family. I can only imagine what it must mean to Erin to have her mother express this attachment. It's this intense loyalty and caring that makes elephants so special for me. The next morning, Erin seems weaker. She and Email are on their own, with no sign of Echo and the others. Suddenly, another family arrives and moves aggressively toward Erin. They are part of the same dominant group that kidnapped Ebony years ago. I'm worried. Erin and Email try to get away, but they can't move fast enough. This is horrible to watch. Even Email isn't safe from the attackers. I'm not sure what was actually happening here. They could have easily killed her if they wanted to, but in this case it was more like they were making a point. We are dominant to you. Erin's family returns, giving me hope that the bullies will not come back. But I fear the attack will only make her condition worse. As I watch Echo and the family moving away, I suspect this will be the last time they'll see Erin alive. I don't think she can make it now. I hope Email can survive, but for such a young calf, the odds are stacked against him.
Email moves off with his sister, Sherry, and the rest of the family, leaving Erin on her own. Finally, overcome by pain and exhaustion, Erin collapses. Cynthia knows that Erin is going to die, but she's determined to let her die as peacefully as possible. After consulting with the warden, they call in the vet again.
The reason for getting the vet to come is so that he could immobilize her first with this very strong morphine derivative that puts her into a lovely state of happiness. And so she felt no pain, she was asleep, and then they had to shoot her a brain shot. It was not easy for any of us. Poor old girl. At least she's not in pain anymore. I never get used to this. I've known Erin since she was 4 years old. So, I guess it's like losing a friend. Certainly going to be. It'll be devastating for the family. They're all going to feel the loss tremendously, and the calf is only 20 months old, so I'm not sure he's going to make it or not. Usually they have to be well over 2 to survive, because they still need the milk of the mother. But it's the wet season, the grass is good, so he might make it. 2 weeks later, Echo brings her family back from a foray into Tanzania. They make a beeline straight for Erin's carcass. With Erin's daughter as Sherry in the lead, they cautiously approach the remains and smell and feel the bones. When elephants inspect the bones of a dead elephant in this way, they're always very quiet and tense. I have no doubt they know these are the bones of Erin. Little Email is here with them. I'm sure he knows it's his mother. I have no idea what's going through their heads, and I would give anything to know what emotions they are experiencing.
The next 6 months passed without incident, and once again, the elephants are enjoying fresh grass after some good rains.
Echo and her family are here, and both the grandsons are doing well. There's Email. It's amazing he's made it. He has set a record for the youngest orphan to survive. And there's Emilio, now a robust calf who loves a good tussle. Elliot has finally proven herself as a mother. Even Echo is looking sprightly. In fact, she's looking positively coy around the males. I find this hard to believe. She seems to be an estrus. Amazing, what a surprise. It's fun watching Echo and estrus. She's so wise. She doesn't really want to be mated by these younger males. She's waiting for one of the big males in Musk to find her. In the meantime, she lets them chase her, which is a way of drawing attention to herself and her availability for mating. The next day, she gets her wish. Big Ed is in full Musk, and he is a very desirable mate. He's in his prime, in his 40s. Echo is sticking close to him. When I first met Echo, I estimated that she was born around 1945, which would put her in her late 50s today. It isn't unheard of for females this old to have calves. Still, I wonder if I have overestimated her age by a few years, or she may just be an amazing female. I've always thought so. Echo moves off to encourage a token chase by Ed. This seems to stimulate mating. Typically, he lays his trunk along her back to bring her to a stop, and then mounts her. Her calves come running over in excitement, perhaps surprised at Grandma's behavior.
It looks like there's going to be another chapter in the Echo story after all. If all goes well, Emilio and Email will have another playmate in about 22 months. Cynthia must know Echo better than any human being has ever known a wild, free-ranging elephant. Her relationship has brought not just personal rewards to her, it has also given all of us an unprecedented insight into the complex lives and personalities of the wonderful creatures to which she has devoted her life.
As I sit up here on this beautiful kopje just outside Amboseli National Park, I can gain a bit of distance and perspective. It's been a fascinating chapter in Echo's life, and also in mine. More than ever, I'm aware that Africa's elephants are running out of space, but I think we still have time to conserve them. Here in Amboseli, the future of the elephants lies in the hands of the Maasai. While they fear and kill elephants, their traditional way of life actually conserves them. If the Maasai weren't here, I seriously doubt there would be any elephants. The Maasai are tolerant, but how long are they going to be willing to share their land with large, dangerous animals? There is no simple solution, but the Maasai are trying to find ways to preserve their culture and the wildlife they live with. As for me, I sometimes wonder if I can go through another death like Aaron's. It's so incredibly painful. But then there's still Echo and all the other elephants. I can't just walk away from them, and I know I never will.